Hello YouTube, and thank you for joining me. My name is Invention Man, and today I would like to tell you about the invention of the bicycle. The first verifiable claim for a practically used bicycle belongs to German Baron Karl von Drais, a civil servant to the Grand Duke of Baden in Germany. Drais invented his Laufmaschine, German for running machine, in 1817. Then, in 1818, he patented the design, which was the first commercially successful two-wheeled, steerable, human-propelled machine commonly called a velocipede. Some speculate that Drais' invention of the bicycle was inspired by the 1816 crop failure, known as the Year Without a Sun, in which many horses died of starvation. As Drais looked for an alternative, he invented the first bicycle. On his first reported ride, on June 12, 1817, he covered 8 miles in less than an hour. Constructed almost entirely of wood, it weighed 48 pounds, had brass bushings within the wheel bearings, iron shod wheels, and a rear wheel brake. The design was welcomed by many mechanically inclined individuals daring to balance, and several thousand copies were built and used, primarily in Western Europe and in North America. The concept was readily picked up by many British wagon makers. The most notable was Dennis Johnson of London, announcing in late 1818 that he would sell an improved model. During the summer of 1819, Johnson's design, the hobby horse, thanks in part to Johnson's marketing skills and better patent protection, became the craze and fashion in London society. Riders began to wear their boots out surprisingly rapidly, and the fashion ended within the year after riders on sidewalks were fined £2. Nevertheless, Drais' velocipede provided the basis for further developments. In fact, it was his design which inspired a French metalworker around 1863 to add rotary cranks and pedals to the front wheel hub to create the first pedal-operated bicycle as we understand the word today. From the 1820s to the 1850s, we started to see the developments of tricycles and quadricycles built for two people. Once again, Germany was the center of innovation when Philipp Moritz Fischer, who had used Drais' design since he was 9 years old for going to school, invented the very first bicycle with pedals in 1853. After years of living all over Europe, he left London to go back to his native town in Bavaria. When his son died at a young age, he built the very first bicycle with pedals in 1853. His design is still sustained and is on public display in the Municipality Museum in his hometown, which I'm going to butcher, of Schweinfurt. If you are enjoying this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment of what you'd like for us to talk about next. The first widespread and commercially successful design was French. An example is at the Museum of Science and Technology in Ottawa. Initially developed around 1863, it sparked a fashionable craze briefly during 1868 to 1870. Its design was simpler than the Macmillan bicycle. It used rotary cranks and pedals mounted to the front wheel hub. Pedaling made it easier for riders to propel the machine at speed, but the rotational speed limitation of this design created stability and comfort concerns, which led to the large front wheel of the penny farthing. It was difficult to pedal the wheel that was used for steering. The use of metal frames reduced the weight and provided sleeker and more elegant designs and allowed for mass production. Different braking mechanisms were used depending on the manufacturer. In England, the velocipede earned the name Bone Shaker because of its rigid frame and iron-banded wheels that resulted in a bone-shaking experience for riders. By the early 1860s, the blacksmith Perry Mucho, besides producing parts for the carriage trade, was producing primitive bicycles called velocipede et pedals on a small scale. The wealthy Olivier brothers, Amy and Renee, were students in Paris at this time, and these shrewd young entrepreneurs adopted the new machine, and they recognized the potential profitability of producing and selling the new machine on a commercial scale. This was the first company which mass-produced bicycles, replacing the early wooden frame with one made of two pieces of cast iron bolted together. Otherwise, the early Mucho machines looked exactly like Lament's patent drawing. In 1869, William Van Anden of Poughkeepsie, New York, USA, invented the freewheel for the bicycle. His design placed a ratchet device in the hub of the front wheel, the driven wheel of the design at the time, which allowed the rider to propel themselves forward without pedaling constantly. Initially, bicycle enthusiasts rejected the idea of a freewheel because they believed it would complicate the mechanical functions of the bicycle. Initially, bicycle enthusiasts rejected the idea of a freewheel because they believed it would complicate the mechanical functions of the bicycle. Bicycle enthusiasts believed that the bicycle was supposed to remain as simple as possible without any additional mechanisms, such as the freewheel. The big wheel, or the high bicycle, was the logical extension of the bone shaker, the front wheel enlarging to enable higher speeds, limited by the inside leg measurement of the rider, the rear wheel shrinking and the frame being made lighter. Frenchman Eugene Meyer is now regarded as the father of the high bicycle. This design was later nicknamed penny farthing in England. They were fast but unsafe. The rider was high up in the air and traveling at a great speed. If he hit a bad spot in the road, they could easily be thrown over the front wheel and be seriously injured. 2 broken wrists were common in attempts to break a fall, or even killed. Taking a header was not uncommon at all. In a polar opposite of extremes, around the 1880s to the 1890s, we have the development of the safety bicycle, which was arguably the most important change in the history of the bicycle. It shifted their use and public perception from being a dangerous toy for sporting young men to being an everyday transport tool for men and women of all ages. The safety bicycle featured a larger rear wheel and a smaller front wheel to increase stability. From the early 20th century until after World War II, the Roadster constituted most adult bicycles sold in the United Kingdom and in many parts of the British Empire. In the United States, the sports roadster was imported after World War II and was known as the English Racer. It quickly became popular with adult cyclists seeking an alternative to the traditional youth-oriented cruiser bicycle. Whilst the English Racer was no racing bike, it was faster and better for climbing hills than the cruiser, thanks to its lighter weight, tall wheels, and narrow tires. It also featured internally geared rear hubs. In the 1970s, we started to see the BMX bike. BMX bikes are specially designed bicycles that usually have 16 to 24-inch wheels, the norm being the 20-inch wheel, which originated in the state of California in the early 1970s when teenagers imitated their motocross heroes on their bicycles. In 1981, the first mass-produced mountain bike appeared, intended for use off pavement over a variety of surfaces. It was an immediate success, and examples flew off retailer shelves during the 1980s. These bicycles featured sturdier frames, wider tires with large knobs for increased traction, a more upright seating position to allow better visibility and shifting of body weight, and increasingly various front and rear suspension designs. By 2000, mountain bike sales had far outstripped that of racing, sport, and touring bicycles. The 21st century has seen a continued application of technology to bicycles in designing them, building them, and using them. Bicycle frames and components continue to get lighter and more aerodynamic without sacrificing strength, largely through the use of computer-aided designs, finite element analysis, and computational fluid dynamics. Recent discoveries about bicycle stability have been facilitated by computer simulations. Once designed, new technology is applied to manufacturing such as hydroforming and automated carbon fiber layup. Finally, electronic gadgetry has expanded from just cyclocomputers to now including cycling power meters and electronic gear shifting systems. Who knows where bicycles will take us in the future? Me, personally, I want a bicycle propelled by rockets. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe, and comment what you'd like for us to talk about next. Thank you.